Hey folks, Matt Sharp here with another Pacific Angler Friday Fishing Report. Welcome to the new man room. I'm not going to talk about that though this week because there is big news this week. It's been a big week in the fishing industry. We're filming for July 16th, so if it's nowhere near July 16th, click up here. This is a link to all the Friday Fishing Reports. We do it most weeks, so I should have something more up to date for you. Now, the big news is that the pinks have not arrived. Don't call the shop asking yet, but it is time to scout. I'm going to talk about that in detail. We have heard whisperings of fish around, and there's been some DFO announcements that are important. But the big news is that on Thursday, they did announce an opening for Chinook salmon in the Strait. Now, wasn't the opening we were hoping for, and it was wrought with the classic DFO communication issues. So with that in mind, I'm going to sit down with the map with you guys that the guys at the Public Fisheries Alliance, as well as the Sports Fishing Institute and the Guides Association put together. Thanks to those who did it. You guys know who you are. And we're going to walk through where you can fish, where you can't fish, and look at how that's going to affect the season going forward. Now, the other big news is the Vedder's been doing quite well, surprisingly. This is a fishery that's usually quite challenging, but there's been good reports, and it's definitely worth looking at if you want to get out float fishing. The other news is that there's coho off the north shorelines. We've started to hear reports of that, and the beach fishing's picked up, as well as trolling the north shoreline, which coho are open right now for hatchery marked fish, so that's definitely worth looking at. Last but not least, on the good news train, Sarah, Alex's wife here at the store, gave birth 3 weeks ago. And then 2 weeks after giving birth, she decided to put this personal best up on the board, and we couldn't be happier with her. Congratulations, you guys. And with that in mind, in the written version of the report, Alex has a summer bass fishing report, which is another cool fishery that's well worth looking at this time of year. We're also going to look at the weather, and we're going to look at the fire situation, because that isn't good news. Our hearts go out to those who are affected by that in the interior, and it does have some effect on our river fishing for trout. We're going to look at that as well in the back end of the report. As always, you want to see more reports like this, consider hitting the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's get into her. All right, guys, cheers to Friday. We're working on the room. It ain't perfect yet, but we're getting there. But I really wanted to get this report out to you guys today. And let's start off with the map because it's important. And as always, well, DFO did a piss poor job of announcing it. There was a plan that came out, and the plan, it's complicated. There's about a 600-page plan for the southern part of the strait, as well as a 600-page document for the northern part. So we kind of knew this was coming, but reading through those 600 pages is confusing. And then when the announcements did come, there was sort of some verbiage that made it very, very challenging. In many ways, it looked as though it was going to be an earlier opening, and a number of people reported on that or talked about that. Unfortunately, when you delve into it, when you look at the map, when you see what's going on, it is very similar to the openings that happened last year that did nothing for stocks of concern and just hampered fishermen getting out and enjoying the resource. That said, there is still opportunity, and the fishing is really good in the areas that we are allowed to retain fish. We're allowed to retain fish 62 centimeters to 80 centimeters in these areas I'm going to talk about in a second. And obviously all the guide companies have had a really, really tough go over the last year. And this isn't just to promote us. Go out with any guide company. Any good guide company in Vancouver could use it right now, and it's a good time to go. But let's look at the map. So when we see here, up here in the purple, this is area 29.2. 1711 and 1712, basically northwest of Thrasher and then north of Gower Point. This area is open as of Thursday, so you guys can get out there, keep one fish in that slot limit, 80 to 62, and enjoy it. Now, the confusion came on an opening that said that in 29.3 and 29.4, there would be a August 1 opening. Now, there is an August opening in that area, but it's only this really small sliver just below Thrasher Rock. It's really just a token opening that doesn't change much for our fishing, but that area, this sliver here, will be open. We will also see that opening on August 1 on the sliver on the north shoreline, so that that'll allow you to troll the cap mouth roughly area. You're gonna have to sit down with the map and look at it. The line is tight to shore, but there's a little bit of opportunity there. And again, that is up to 80 centimeters, 1 Chinook per day in those areas. Now, everything else doesn't kick in until September 1. And so it'll go back to September 1, 2 Chinook per day in most of the local waters around here. We can at least get out then. Now, the good news is on the coho front though, and that plays in for the North Shore. So our beach guys have been seeing fish, and that means that it's time to get trolling out there, and we are allowed to retain a hatchery clipped coho in those waters, so it's worth looking at. Now, let's talk about the weather really quickly, and we'll take a peek at it here. It's nice weather, really, really good weather this weekend, and really good weather because it's actually not too hot. It's going to be hovering around 20s, which is great outdoor weather, but not scorching. We're not going to see any precipitation. I would have actually liked to have seen a little bit of that just to keep things damp for fire concerns across the province, but also just for the fishing. That said, there is a little bit of cloud cover, and that's going to play a big role. And also not too bad on the wind front for you saltwater guys, at least is what I'm looking at here. It might be a little bit choppy on Friday when you guys are watching this, but it looks okay for the weekend. Now, when we throw it out to Hope and sort of Chilliwack range, obviously things are going to be a little bit warmer out that way, but still we've got some cloud in the forecast, and that should be good for the Vedder, that should be good for the Skagit, and it should also be good for the Thompson when we look a little bit farther up. You can see that they're going to be hot, which is sort of normal for this time of year. But a little bit of cloud cover as well for them. Again, our hearts go out to those with challenging fire issues. If we pull up the fire map right now, it does not look good. I'll just throw it up for here. And if you guys are thinking about getting to the Thompson, a number of those areas are close to fires. I've heard you can still travel to many of these areas, but it is something to pay close attention to if you're heading up that way for some trout fishing. Okay, let's talk a little bit about actually the fly fishing on beaches, because Andre had a cool report. I want to pull up a fish picture here for us. This little guy, Andre, got a couple of these guys on yesterday, actually, so Wednesday before I was filming this, and he's been nice enough. He was quite excited. He was using a new fly, and it hooked quite a few fish, and it's right here. I'll show you guys that. And it's kind of cool. It's an interesting one. It's definitely worth putting in your box. It's a combination of sort of polar bear as well as old school material for doing sort of Squamish poachers, but I could see adopting a pink style body for this, and it would probably be a good double duty pink pattern as well. So check that out if you want to do some tying this weekend for the pink season, as well as coho coming up. This one is tested as of Wednesday. Okay, what else do I have for you guys? Well, we talked about bass fishing. Alex is going to have that feature in there. I'll just share this picture again because it's awesome. Sarah with that big bass. Good job, Mom. But let's talk about the Vedder. And so we've been seeing a number of good reports. Guys are fishing roe for the red Chinook coming in. That seems to be the most productive, which is normal for this time of year. Float fishing heavy rods. The fish are sort of ranging 8 to 18 pounds. We've heard of some decent ones coming through. And so it's worth taking a look, worth getting out there. Now, on the pink side, I promised I'd talk about pinks, and there's some mixed sort of reports on that front. So the big news is the DFO did get it right. They opened up the Squamish system to salmon fishing. And this has always been a concern because 2 years ago, I believe it was now, they decided to close all salmon fishing in all our rivers and then open them as they go. And then in classic DFO fashion, they were sort of behind the 8 ball on opening a number of these rivers when the fisheries were starting. So they have opened the Squamish. It is a non-retention for a pink salmon opening, but at least you can get out there and enjoy it. And we have heard the odd whisper of fish, but nothing major yet. Those fish are still probably a week or 2 weeks out before they start pushing in any real numbers. We have heard reports off Bowen of our saltwater fleet catching pinks, and so that means you can start looking at the beaches. On the Vedder side of things, note that they will be a week or two even behind that, and the bad news is that I've looked at all the reports, and it looks as though they're forecasting a low pink year, something to the tune of 3 million fish, when an average year sort of runs 8 to 12, maybe even 15 million fish. I don't think we're going to expect a banner pink year. That said, there still should be some cool opportunities for catch and release. All right, so I think that's everything I've got for you guys. Have a wicked weekend. Everyone get out there, enjoy the weather, enjoy the fishing, and I'm going to catch you guys in 2 weeks.